Hi, I'm Kim. You're watching Kim Wilson TV. My channel is dedicated to helping victims of narcissistic abuse get free and stay free. Before I get going with this video, I just want to take a moment to thank our friend Peter very much for your donation to our channel's PayPal account. Thank you, Peter. I really appreciate your continued support. You'll have to excuse me. I've caught a really bad cold. I feel terrible, and I've got quite a sore throat today. We're in Guadalajara. And I will explain why, but it is much, much cooler here in Guadalajara, and I really didn't bring the clothes for it, and we've been here on and off for about a month now. Oh, my family, much like yours, was deeply affected by the narcissistic abuse, and it wasn't just me, of course. It spilled out on my kids, it spilled out on our pets, it spills out on everyone, and certainly there was damage to repair and relationships to rebuild and, smooth over some of the challenges that we were facing as a family. So that was really my focus when I got to Mexico. Eddie and I came together. Exton joined us a few months later, and together we've been here ever since. Now my other sons have come and gone to visit, but I do live with Eddie and Exton. They're the youngest of the 5 boys, and I really saw that they were very deeply affected by my relationship with Trevor, and I really wanted to make fixing any damage in our relationship the priority. So anyways, several months ago, Eddie says to me, "Mom, I want to be a model." So I say, "Okay, let's give it a go." And I'm really on board and really supportive, not really understanding what that was going to look like long term, but he wanted to try it and I wanted to be supportive of that. So we go off and we get some photos done. Now I take the photos and I tell Eddie I think we should send them to the biggest agencies in the country. So I send the photos to some agents in Mexico City and Guadalajara. And I tell Eddie, okay, the photos are off. Now I guess we have to wait a month or so and see if anyone replies. I'm assuming they get thousands of applications. Well, we didn't wait a month. I don't think we waited 10 minutes and replies started coming back, and big agencies in Mexico City and Guadalajara wanted to meet Eddie, and holy cow was I triggered. I mean, talk about bad coping skills. I'm just seeing a predator around every corner. I'm in a full-blown panic attack. Though I'm trying to be cool in front of the kids, I am literally melting down. Now, we did decide on a very good agency here in Guadalajara. It's only 4 hours from Puerto Vallarta, so that worked out better for us. And of course, Mexico City is just, fright night. I mean, it's so big, so crazy, it just seemed too much. When we still lived in Canada, all of my boys worked in the film industry. Several of them had done leading roles in films, and I was very active in that with them. I was constantly working with their agents and casting directors, constantly at these huge cattle calls where there was thousands of people, and yeah, it never bothered me before. I want to talk about that a bit today, but first I'll show you some of Eddie's pictures in the next tiles. And yes, I'm very proud and very excited for him, and that is a very small sampling of his very huge portfolio. And this all happened so quickly in a matter of months. We've been in Guadalajara for a bit now because he has been working, and today is our last day. We will be going home. He has a big photo shoot with a huge online magazine later today, and we have a meeting with a gentleman at his agency from Guanajuato, and he is a big player in the fashion industry here in Mexico, and he wanted to meet with Eddie and has asked that potentially Eddie do an in-house modeling contract with him, which would mean Eddie would have to move to Guanajuato. Holy triggered. I mean, holy triggered. Somebody left a comment recently, and thank you, asking if I would do a video about what it's been like since I got free. And I'm going to do a whole series of videos because I'll tell you, at year 3, I'm feeling pretty good. In all things considered, life is good. I mean, I've got a long way to go. I get that. I want to talk about that in future videos. But what I want to talk about today is some residual filth, slime that kind of trails behind us when we leave the narcissist, and has certainly trailed behind me. Now, the big thing that we can never get back is the time, and pretty much everything else can be repaired. And I think we're going to go through highs and lows throughout our recovery, and things these days certainly do trigger me. Now, if I look back on my life prior to the narcissistic abuse, I was just rolling with the waves. I mean, I was very resilient. I was very resourceful. I had excellent coping skills. I mean, I'm a widowed mother of 5 kids, 5 boys. So you could imagine, and all of them in extreme sports. I think I had fairly good coping skills. And I just approached life, in stride, and really just kind of skimmed over the speed bumps in life. I had to, and I think by nature I'm very much like that. I just go with the flow. I can, ride with the punches. But one of the things I've really noticed over the last 3 years is things do trigger me now, things that I never would have been bothered by before. Meeting new people, long road trips, being away from home for extended periods of time, forced out into the public when I would, more frequently want to just self-isolate. And, I'm not talking about crawling under my blankets and crying. I mean, I like being home. And of course, it's my intention that I help to protect myself and my children from future narcissists in our life. So I don't meet new people the way I used to meet new people. There is certainly a heightened level of suspicion and paranoia and maybe over-observation. I'm watching people, I'm listening to what they say in almost a crazy paranoid kind of way, because it is my intention to avoid future narcissists in the future. So, yeah, triggered, definitely. And that is not something I've ever dealt with before. In fact, over the months that Eddie's been modeling, I've been triggered quite a bit, and I feel very angry and frustrated about that. Like, I feel like screaming, I got away from it, like, leave me alone, and it just feels like this thing is trailing me sometimes. Like, I don't want to, I want to avoid another narcissist in our life, but I don't want to approach every new person, with a feeling of paranoia either. And I think anyone would agree, music industry, film industry, fashion industry, predator industries, right? And Eddie, of course, he's 21, he's so trusting, he's so friendly, he's so outgoing, like I used to be. When I say I want to do a video series about what it's been like for me since I got free from the narcissist, that video series really will be about all the incredible things that I'm grateful for, all the wonderful positive things that have happened in my life. But this video is really about the negative things that have trailed me. Heightened feeling of fear or paranoia when meeting new people, I feel like I'm being forced out of my home. I'm not forced out of my home. I could have stayed home. But then I have the issue of, feeling like Eddie is possibly in a sea of predators without me keeping an eye on him. And, it's not like I make myself kind of known at these places we go to. I just kind of hang back and, I just want anyone looking on to know, hey, this kid, somebody's watching this kid. Somebody cares about this kid. Somebody loves this kid. And this kid probably isn't going to be a good target for a predator. And that's really sort of the function I serve, more of a guard dog sort of thing. But I do feel very compelled to come, which then causes me to feel forced out of my home. And big crowds, I'm not good in, pardon me, I have such a sore throat, in big crowds anymore. And I don't think crowds ever bothered me. When I look back at all the events I've been to, it never would occur to me that, holy cow, Kim, you're in a big crowd, where now it does. And I talked to a friend from the channel recently. Hi, Allison, a wonderful, wonderful woman. And Allison has been 7 years away from the narc, and she called me to share a revelation she'd had. She referred to it as a miracle. And even at 7 years, this miracle, this sense of awareness, this sense of personal growth had occurred in Allison that kicked her up to the next level of narcissistic abuse recovery. And I thought that was incredible. And Allison, by the way, your call came on a day when I was highly triggered. and yeah, feeling very anxious. So I really do appreciate talking to you. And I think that's what it's about. It's really about the journey. And yes, these things will trail us, these things will affect us, they will impact us, but we can't let them hold us back. And though I feel that I am definitely in a heightened state of anxiety and panic about today's meeting, I'm working on my coping skills. Now, I never in my lifetime ever had to sit down and devise a coping plan for a day, but I guess that's what it is now. And I can do that though. Like, I've been up early, I was in the shower, I'm making this video, I've been kind of talking myself off the ledge, I'm venting how I feel. Yeah, it's just part of it, I guess. To Allison really gave me a heightened sense of self-awareness because there are things going on with me. And of course, being the mom at home with 2 kids, you gotta, keep a pretty stable mom face on most of the time. I mean, you don't want to look like you're losing your junk, So, I keep a facade most of the time at the house because I think the kids think I'm driving the bus, So I want to be able to do that and have them not think, my God, the bus is going to crash. Nobody's, in control. So I think for the most part, I do feel really good about things, but I do also get angry and frustrated sometimes at these residual feelings of paranoia, the need to self-isolate, heightened sense of fear or panic in crowded places. And I'm going to tell you a big one for me, and the call with Allison really triggered this bit of self-awareness: control. During the time I was with Trevor, I had zero control over my life. And I guess I felt that I was somehow trying to control things because I was always scrambling, to not, upset him and have everything nice so he didn't get angry or mad at me or, pick on me. And, just that constant feeling of scrambling, which really was me completely flailing mindlessly out of control. And I think subconsciously, since I got away from him, I have become a bit hypersensitive to controlling things, and I have no control over this. This is about Eddie, Eddie's career, Eddie's life, Eddie's agent, Eddie's contract, Eddie's job. This is just, about me being a watchdog and me having zero control over this. And I think for anyone who has lived in that completely out of control feeling, once you get free, even if it is subconscious, I do get, why I'm feeling like I need to control things. And then waking up to the reality that I can't. And it put a whole different perspective on control and what losing it meant to me and what now trying to maintain it means to me. I think the moral of the story for any one of us in recovery from narcissistic abuse is the abuse was extreme. The abuse was all-encompassing. It was soul-consuming. It was heartbreaking. It was life-shattering. So recovery will be a journey, and it's been a very exciting journey for me, and a lot of coming to terms with how I've changed as well. I'm not saying that these changes are permanent, but they are changes that I have to deal with. I'm just not as trusting. I'm just not as comfortable out of my home. I'm just not as comfortable in large spaces. I really get triggered when I feel like I have no control over a situation. And these are all things I can work on, but we can't work on them if we don't recognize them and admit that they're there. And I have to admit that these lingering effects of narcissistic abuse are very much alive in my life today. And I guess I'm going to say these are residual effects of, symptoms that we're all familiar with: adrenal fatigue, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, kind of a Stockholm sort of effect. And yeah, it's real. It is. And it can be angering and it can be very frustrating because you leave and, if the world was fair, you would leave and it would leave you alone. But yeah, this thing is not fair. This thing is so incredibly unfair, so unjust. And yeah, I guess I'm going to call this a heightened level of self-awareness regarding the residual effects of narcissistic abuse and how I am becoming aware of the changes in me and how I have to combat these changes. I don't want to be distrusting of everyone. I don't want another narc in my life, but I can't suspect everyone is a narc. And I've got to cut my son some slack, have some faith in him, have some trust in him, and believe that he's going to be okay. Once losing control for a period of time does not mean I have to control every aspect of my life now. I can let go and let God and have some faith and some gratitude. Many times victims of narcissistic abuse have said, I'm never going to be the same, and maybe we won't be the same, but maybe this is a great opportunity to really examine where we are, where we want to be, and how we can reinvent ourselves in a much better way. Maybe create a bigger and better us than we were before. Guys, I just wanted to share this little triggering story with you. I'm sure I'm not the only one that gets triggered from time to time in what really should be just a normal life event. But I guess it is what it is, and forward we keep moving. Guys, I love you lots. I'm Kim. You're watching Kim Wilson TV. I hope you're having a great narc-free day.